We're inside the last half an hour of the SportsMax zone for this Wednesday. We're turning our focus now to football and the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. The tournament is on a two-day break with the quarterfinals set to begin on Friday. These are the pairings and some good ones, I might add. Friday, Croatia taking on Brazil, the favourites. The Netherlands against Argentina. Then on Saturday, Morocco take on Portugal. And England, they'll be up against France. Now, Leighton, let's discuss these pairings, starting with Croatia against Brazil. Brazil went into the tournament as favourites, and there's nothing that we've seen in the tournament so far to change that.
Well, not really. I think France looks really good, but
yes,
the Brazilians have depth and talent all across the pitch. I don't think they've played their best football yet. I think we're getting to see that. And I believe that as the tournament rolls on, should they get by Croatia, I think we'll see the best of this Brazil team, because I think what I've seen over the years in terms of the World Cup is that the teams that come to a boil are the teams that usually end up best, as opposed to teams that come in playing well and then eventually fade during the course of the tournament. I think this Brazil team is looking better each game. And I think that having scored 7 goals so far and conceding 2, not much different from Croatia, who has scored 5 and conceded 2. You have to give Brazil the edge, primarily because I think they have more weapons up front. I mean, their best, Perisic is their fullback, has taken the more shots for this team, 11, and scored, I think, twice or once in the tournament so far. Brazil has Neymar, they have Vinicius Jr., they have so many people who can actually score goals. They've lost Jesus, but what we've seen is that they've had other people who are able to come in and deliver and get those goals for Brazil, and they don't give goals up easily. So I'm going to have to think on the face of it that this Brazil team could end up advancing to the semi-finals, given what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and the fact is, based on how the bracket is, they would face the winner of the Netherlands-Argentina game, which means that there could not be a Brazil-Argentina final, which many people have longed for. But I was pointing out to Mariah yesterday, she's a big Argentina fan, that I think Argentina will have a lot to fear from the Dutch team. They, like Brazil to me, I think can still play better than we have seen so far. And while I think that Argentina can beat them, there's no question about that, I think the Dutch will present a very stiff challenge for Argentina.
I think they will too, and they have history. I mean, remember when I stopped being a Dutch fan in 1978 when Argentina beat them in that final in Argentina.
Mario Kempes
and Ozzy Ardiles, etc. Yeah. And in 2014, the Dutch then turned the tables on them. And of course, now they're meeting again in a crucial match. And when you look at it again, when you look at people like Gakpo, who scored 3 goals so far in this tournament.
In consecutive games.
In consecutive games. Three from 4. Yeah, but three consecutively, yeah.
And only 3 Dutchmen had done that before. Johan Neeskens, Wes Schneider, and Bergkamp.
Yeah, so you're looking at quality here. And he's a dangerous player, but also very dangerous is Dumfries. And because he scored that last goal in that last match. Does Argentina have the weapons to stop them from scoring? I think so. I think their defense has been fairly solid, except for those 2 goals that they gave up against Saudi Arabia, and of course that freak goal against Australia.
Yes.
Argentina has looked pretty solid at the back. Going forward, however, they do have their own challenges because they're not a high-scoring team. This Dutch team potentially could upset them if they're not able to get more than 1 goal in their matchup, because, Hernandez and, of course, Messi is always there. You're looking at a team that needs to, against the Dutch, score at least 3 goals, because we know the Dutch will be able to get goals back, given the talent that they have up front. Of course, with Depay and company, the Dutch offer a very, very potent threat. They move the ball well, they spread the field, and of course they'll find those channels against Argentina, which means that it could come down to a 3-2 result. For me, being an Argentina supporter, it's going to be...
Well, you are. I didn't even realize that.
It's a difficult...
And here was I talking about Mariah being an Argentina supporter. Go ahead, man.
But long before Mariah was even born. The fact is, I think this is going to be one of the most interesting matches that could end up going to penalties, actually.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it's a crapshoot. And it's anybody's guess who's going to go through.
If that dream semi-final happens between Argentina and Brazil, who would you take?
On paper, you have to go with Brazil. But Argentina beat them in the Copa America
Yes.
So I think the fear
and the squads
factor,
are pretty similar.
And the fear factor is no longer there. And one of the mistakes that I don't think Argentina can afford to make is running every play through Messi. I think Messi has to be more of a playmaker as opposed to being the focal point of any attack that Argentina puts together for the rest of the tournament if they're the advance. Because I think everybody's going to expect Messi to do Messi things. And like we saw against Saudi Arabia, he's not he's not a 25-year-old Messi anymore. He's 35 years old. He's not going to be able to do the things that they expect him to do. So I think they're going to have to run the offense through maybe Hernandez or somebody else to get the kind of openings that they need. And maybe Messi can come up and then present himself as an opportunity to score. But it's going to be quite interesting if they do meet in the semifinals. But if a team can actually beat that Brazil team, it could be Argentina.
Yeah. All right, let's quickly move on to the Saturday quarterfinals now, because we have first Morocco taking on Portugal, two teams that in their round of 16 performances, I think, earned a lot of fans. Morocco, solid in the group stages, but really, really frenetic, determined, and tactically disciplined against the Spain team en route to bouncing Spain out of the tournament. So at this stage, no one wants to write off Morocco.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, look, a lot of people are going to get excited because Portugal dismantled Switzerland.
Yes.
But against Morocco, they won't get those spaces to play as freely as they want to. Morocco plays very organized defense. They've conceded one goal this tournament.
It was an own goal.
An own goal. So the problem with them, though, is that they can't score. They've only scored 4 goals, I think, this tournament. A 2-1 victory, I think, that they pulled off against, I'm trying to remember who it was. But the thing is, the key thing for Morocco is that they gotta have to get on the board, because against Portugal, with João Felix, with Ramos, they have potent players who can score. Pepe as well, you know. So the reality is that they're gonna have to find a way to score. I don't think they're going to have a problem preventing Portugal from scoring, but I think they're going to need to score if they're going to have to win that match. But it's going to be a very interesting matchup because, as I said previously, Portugal won't get those open spaces to play through midfield and on the flanks because Morocco is going to shut them down. Yeah.
Portugal, we're not sure where CR7 stands with them at the moment, given the fact that they flourished without him. Yeah. The expectation is that he may not start.
He will not. I don't think he will start.
In this quarterfinal, very, very important. But what do you think is going through his mind at the moment? Because he's been in the news for a lot of not so good reasons.
I think Ronaldo's problem right now is his ego. He needs to be able to find a way to control it, because the reality is, I think he's beginning to recognize through Manchester United, through Juventus, through Portugal now, that the team, he needs a team more than the team needs him. Ramos comes in and scores a hat-trick. Why wouldn't you start him in a crucial quarterfinal match where he's clearly confident, he's clearly on form, and shows that he's not overawed by the occasion? Why would you start a 37-year-old player who scored 1 goal from the penalty spot all World Cup? Ronaldo, I think, needs to understand that he's part of a team. It's not all about him. Yes, Portugal are now contenders for the World Cup, and if they win, he'll be a part of that legacy. But the reality is he needs to play as part of a teammate as opposed to thinking that he needs to start. And if he's a true teammate, then he wouldn't have a problem with Ramos starting, because Ramos clearly, a hat-trick in your opening World Cup debut, there is no better way to come into the World Cup and no better person to start in a crucial quarterfinal match.
Yeah, so who would you take Portugal-Morocco then? Stick your neck out.
Based on the firepower that Portugal possesses, and of course the fact that they have Bernardo Silva in the midfield, I'd have to go with Portugal.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't rule out a Morocco victory on penalties.
Yeah, I saw a lot of England fans on cars in the past 3 or 4 weeks, Leighton, and the Englishmen are at the moment getting their hopes up. But they have France on Saturday.
Yeah, they do, and they have a better record than France head-to-head. 17 wins as opposed to France's 9. And I think England has the firepower. They have the players who can beat France. France is really good. Mbappe looks really good. The entire team looks like an organized unit. They look like defending champions. The thing is that if Southgate decides to start the right players, you know, Bellingham in midfield, who played exceptionally well the last game. Of course, Phil Foden, I think, should start. And of course, Jordan Henderson, who is much maligned, but certainly played well in the last couple of games for England, including scoring. I think this English team has a very good chance of beating France, despite the presence of players like Griezmann and, of course, Mbappe. I think Kyle Walker has a full job on his hands just to keep Mbappe quiet. But I think we've seen where this French team is vulnerable. They've conceded 4 goals this tournament. And, of course, I think they've scored 9 goals, and I think Mbappe has 5 of them, which means that other than Giroud, who scored, I think, 3, they're not getting goals from anywhere else. So if they're able to maybe control the distribution of balls to those players and then get their forwards going and get their midfield kicking, I think England has a very good chance of pulling off a victory here, despite the fact that France might be favourites to win this game.
Yeah, I saw in one of my football chat groups some English fans saying they don't understand why people think that England have anything to fear from France. No, your narrative just now would probably support that view, but I would think they should have a lot to fear about France. I don't think man for man that an English fan can argue confidently that they are better than France are.
No, they can't.
In the last 6 World Cups, France have won 2 titles and they've reached the final once. England last played a final in 1966. That was a few years after I was born. So England's pedigree in World Cup football in today's global stage of football compares 0 to France. So I would think that England should have a lot to fear from France.
Yeah, they do. But the reality is that I think this English team, for the first time in a long time, has the talent. There's not just about talk. I think when you look across the field, England is the problem I think with England is Gareth Southgate. He doesn't know which 11 is his best 11. And after how many years in charge, I think that's a disappointment. Yes. Because I think England, Phil Foden, I think, is a ridiculously good, talented player. And if he puts the right combination on the field, I think that England has a very good shot. This is not to diminish France's chances, because I think, as I said at the outset, I think France's French team is really talented, notwithstanding the number of players that they've had injured, Benzema, Pogba, etc. They're playing as if those players were never there.
Well, going into the World Cup, I had taken my eyes off France because Kanté and Pogba and Benzema were out. And they are proving me really wrong.
They're like a well-oiled machine.
Based on what I'm seeing now, if Brazil loses the World Cup, I would think France is the best placed team to beat them. Yeah.
That's my thought too. But I think this game is going to be a very evenly contested game, and I think who brings the best 11 on the field and plays the best football is going to win. That could be France, but I wouldn't rule out England. Yeah,
okay, let's see what happens over the weekend in the quarterfinals. A reminder that there are cash prizes and surprises, including authentic football jerseys when you play SportsMax World Cup Prediction. So you can download the SportsMax app from the Google Play Store or the App Store to participate. Back with more on The Zone after this.